Okay, so take two. I'm going to attempt to, again, do a Facebook Live for you. So obviously we're all feeling the impact of the crisis right now. A lot of us are feeling very uneasy and unsure. A lot of businesses aren't ready to go digital. They aren't ready to go virtual and don't really know where to start. So I would like to share a couple of tips with you guys today just to help you ease into it, some basics that will help you just get things set up and started with working remotely, working with virtual teams, in different locations where some of the team can be there, some can't, etc. It doesn't matter. These tips will help in all of those situations. And hopefully my live isn't going to cut off early like the last one, but we'll soon find out, won't we? So I'm just watching out the side here. As soon as this thing shuts off on me, I'll know. Technology, it's here to help us, but also can be very challenging. So that is something to keep in mind while we're in this situation. We haven't experienced anything like this before. We don't know how the technology is going to actually handle all of this load. So in some cases, we're just going to have to be patient and work through everything on a daily basis. So the first thing is, how do we actually interact with each other? How do we have meetings? How do we have phone calls? Well, Zoom meetings, GoToMeetings. Sorry, my cat has just joined me in my office. That is one thing, you see. You go virtual and you'll have kitties and kids interrupting your work all the time. But that's something that you'll have to manage as well. Sorry. So the first thing is phone meetings, web meetings. You can use technology like Zoom, which is big at the moment, GoToMeeting. You can use Skype, WebEx, Google Hangouts. If you have Google for work, then you can use the Google Hangouts as well. Some of the project management and collaboration platforms have video services built into them as well. So depending on what you use, that may be an option for you too. So the thing to remember is, I'm sorry, I'm trying to stop my cat from also stopping the live. The thing with video and online conferencing is, if you need to, you can see people's faces, but you also don't have to. So you can sit in your jammies if you want to and have the conference calls. You can share your screens. So if you've got things that you want to show people that people need to see, you can share that as well. Some of the technology also has whiteboard functionality. So if you have touch screens, you can draw on it, you can bring things up. You can scribble, you can share a whiteboard, you can draw on it, another person can draw on it. It's really very cool technology. So brainstorming, the things that you would normally do on your whiteboard on the wall, you can actually do on an electronic whiteboard on your screen as well. So shared whiteboards, very cool. So Skype, you know, there are tools that actually are no cost or very low cost that will enable you to do these things right now. Even on your iPhone, and I'm not familiar as much with Androids, but you can conference people in. So you can add multiple people onto a phone call on your iPhone as well and have conference calls. So you don't always have to have a paid feature like a Zoom meeting if you just want to have voice calls. So that's also an option. The other thing I like to do is, if you're going to, you need to share information with each other, video is a great way to do that. It also means that you don't have to be available all at the same time. You can record something, send it to someone, they can watch it later, and then come back to you with a response or feedback or whatever it is. So there's technology like Camtasia, or even a very cool technology that's by the same company as Camtasia, called TechSmith, and it's called Screencast. And the beauty of Screencast is you record what you're doing on the screen, plus your voice, so you can talk about the activities that you're working on and explain something to someone. It uploads a video to the web, you send someone the link. So you don't also have to have video hosting platforms or produce videos. It's all in one. There are limitations on the free version, obviously, but there's paid versions as well. So that's a very cool, easy tool that you can use to start sharing information with each other. And I want you to think about, while you're doing that, how can you also start considering, well, if this is going to be a longer term thing, or if this is something that I do often, I should be keeping this video for longevity, putting it somewhere that anyone can access, so that it's an easy training material for the future. So we're trying to also think about, I know that we're all in the crisis mode at the moment, but it's really good to have in the back of your mind, how can you start adapting your business with these new ways of working and leveraging the things that we're creating now so they're not wasted and they can be used again. So I want you to sort of keep that in mind while you're starting to implement these new things that maybe you haven't done before, new ways of working. We're going to start thinking outside the square, outside the box. How can we leverage and reuse this in the future as well? So video recordings, love them. Obviously using web and phone for talking to each other. The other one is ongoing chats, right? So you don't want to have to pick up the phone every 5 minutes and ask someone a question. Whereas in the office, you can kind of look over to the desk next to you and say, mate, how do I do this thing? What are you doing later? Can we chat in a few minutes? So you can use things like Skype chat, Slack, and some, like I said before as well, there are project management tools that have video, but also chat built into them as well. So you can use those different chat functions to make sure that you can collaborate and ask each other questions frequently and on an ongoing basis. You can create group chats or individual chats as well, which is great. So Slack is great for creating chats on particular topics. Skype, you can do the same sort of thing. So chat is great. It can be just open on your desktop, or if you want to be really productive, closed and only opened at the most appropriate times. But it can be there, available, people can ping you. You can also, in some of those chat functions, turn on video if you need to as well. So, or voice or video also as well. But it's a good way to just be able to ping each other with little questions and have that constant contact and collaboration with your people and your teams. So ongoing chat, really important to keep that connection going on a regular basis. And some organizations are already set up with this stuff already, but not everyone is ready to go. So that's one thing. What else have we got here? I'm just looking at my list. Okay, digital task management. Now, some of these organizations, you'll find that maybe the way that you collaborate and manage the activities that you do is through a whiteboard on the wall. Maybe it's through conversation and meetings, but maybe you don't have a electronic way at the moment to share what everyone's doing because you've been doing it in a face-to-face format or in an on-site format, whether it's an agile board or a scrum board on the wall, whatever it happens to be. We now need to go digital with that so that everyone can see it wherever they are located. So there's some great tools out there that will enable you to manage tasks, boards, projects, whatever it happens to be. Some are free and some are not, depending on the level of functionality you want. Great basic one is Trello. Awesome tool, free to get going. You can use all sorts of other tools though. Jira, you can use projectmanager.com, Monday, Wrike, Basecamp. There's a whole host of them that have different functionality that you need. But if you want a free one to just get started, have a go at Trello. It's a great way to just have some tasks in there. Now, most of, if not all of these tools enable you to allocate the tasks to a person, set due dates, have chats and files within each activity as well, so it's all contained. And a lot of them also integrate with email. Is my cat in the background again, being naughty? Oh, dearie me. Working from home, love it, but also things like this happen. Where was I? Yes, so also try and keep things contained within that tool if possible. Don't get caught in the trap now that things are going digital. Don't get caught in the trap about everything being on email all of a sudden, because that can get really unruly. You can't find things. No one knows who sent that email. What was the subject? Who was it from? You know, was I CC'd? Was I actually a BCC? I don't know. What was it? Don't use email as much as possible. Start using these collaboration tools. It will really make your team more productive and you more productive It'll keep things contained, and it's much simpler in the long run. So the next thing is files and file sharing. So if you currently work with servers in your organization, we need a way that people can get files at home. Some of you have restrictions on USBs, which is perfectly acceptable, but you can now use other tools like Dropbox, Google Drive, Amazon S3. A lot of the project management tools have file servers, as file upload functionality as well, and some of the collaboration tools as well, as I mentioned. So there are lots of options out there of ways you can load files into the cloud. If you're on Microsoft OneDrive, the other thing also, sorry, I didn't mention before, Teams. So Microsoft Teams is also a great collaboration tool as well. But for the files, ideally people aren't running around with USB drives. That's open for risk, that creates risk in your business. Use things like Dropbox, Google Drive, all of those sorts of things, because you can add a level of security around that. You can say who can access folders, who can access files. You can put restrictions on what can be viewed versus downloaded in a lot of cases. You can even share files with clients or external parties by putting the right amount of security around that as well. So there are lots of ways to share files in the cloud and put levels of security on that as well. Now, this can become really messy when you just jump in and don't think a little bit strategically about how you're going to use this tool. If you currently have servers, then replicate the file structure on the Google Drive, Dropbox, whatever it happens to be, so that everyone is familiar. You use the folders the same way. And if you want to move back later, or if you want to move things permanently to the cloud later, it's much easier. There's a like for like happening. And it's not just a big dumping ground. Louisa's folder, John's folder, Tash's folder, Let's make sure that we create a little bit of structure here. It will be more helpful in the long run, and even in the short run, because people will actually know where things are and they'll be familiar. So make sure you create a usable folder structure if you're going to go to another file mechanism. So don't put things in random places, please. Now, people are also struggling with the fact that maybe your organization doesn't have laptops. Maybe you don't have enough computers or a mechanism to send computers home. So a couple of things. If you don't have laptops and you want your people to go home and they can take their PC home, and that's easy, it really depends on your location, do not send your people home with a screen and a laptop on the train. That sounds like a nightmare. So let's try and make it easy for people. If they have a PC or a laptop at home, let's try and make sure they can use that if you don't want to send stuff home. But one thing to be very cautious of, if you're starting to send computers and laptops and PCs and equipment home with people, just check on your insurance, make sure it's still insured. So maybe check with your insurance company, make sure it's all still covered. You don't want to create any kind of risk there by sending assets out of the office that you don't have control over anymore and your insurance doesn't cover it. So please, flagging with you, please make sure that that is a consideration as well. The other thing is, let's say we're asking our team members to work on their own computers and you need special software for them to work. Now, there are a couple of things you can do here. One thing is call up your software provider and ask for temporary short-term licenses, some kind of agreement, work out some kind of agreement so they can install the software on their home computers. And then, you can work out all sorts of things. Work out in a way that you can then confirm at a later date it's been uninstalled, all of those sorts of things. But try and work out if you can have an agreement with your software provider that you can get your staff to install those licenses on their home PCs. Or an alternative, if you don't think you can work that out, use the license that they have on their computer at work on their home computer, take it off one computer, put it on the other, and then vice versa, swap it back around. Obviously, in some cases, that means you're expecting them to work at home for longer than a couple of days. You know, some of these things are things that you'll want to have in place for a few weeks at least. And given the recommendations and what's actually happening, you know, we could be working from home for anywhere from 2 weeks to a couple of months at this rate. So let's think about this not as it's going to be a couple of days, but, you know, how can we put things in place that are going to give us some longevity here with what we're putting in place? So that's a couple of things that you should be considering. Now, tomorrow, I'm going to post a video tomorrow or a live tomorrow, which is going to be about how we're actually going to manage our people. I've already given you one example here on managing the work and the tasks using digital management, but how are we going to manage our people in this new way of working, this new virtual environment? Now, I've had a virtual team for 10 years now, so this isn't new to me, and we have lots of different mechanisms in place to make sure everyone's okay and they're doing their work and they have the support that they need. We're in a different, unique environment right now than we've ever been in, and we really need to check in with our people regularly because people are scared. They're scared from a health perspective. They're scared they're not going to have food. They're scared they're not going to have a job. So we need to put some mechanisms in place to really try and help manage our people through this really rough time. And I just ask that everyone show each other a bit of love right now because mental health is so important. There are businesses that are going under. People are really scared and struggling, and my fear is, you know, depression, the suicide rate, anxiety is going to skyrocket, and we really need to be asking everyone right now, are you okay, and reaching out to people. So tomorrow I'm going to talk about how do we manage our team. We've got to be thinking about things like OH&S in a different environment, and then what are the questions and what are the behaviours we should be putting in place now. And then, like I said before, I want you to be thinking about this. Yes, we're in a short-term crisis, but we want to make sure we're putting things in place that doesn't create mess for us in the future. So, you know, be a little bit structured and strategic around how you implement these things. So if anyone wants any more help, if you have any questions, I can't see if there's any questions pinging up on my screen, but if there is, I will respond to them after I end the video. But please reach out. I'll put a link in the video as well if you are interested in having a more in-depth conversation about your business, how you can go virtual, how you can get started if you're feeling really overwhelmed by it. I'll put a link in there. Just let me know that you're interested in doing that, and we can talk about how we can get going on that, because what we're doing at the moment, I've cleared my calendar as much as I can. I've even opened up some time slots on the weekends for 3-hour intensive strategic consults with organizations to talk through this, to help them move over to a virtual team, to a digital environment. So if you're interested in talking about actually having one of those sessions, I'll put a link in the chat thing, the comments on Facebook, so you can have a look. So you can let me know, and then we'll try and book something in. But everyone, please be kind to each other, and please let me know if you have any questions. We really need to support each other right now. Thanks. Bye. I don't know how to end it.